Cool. Hello and welcome to this procedural foliage system tutorial. That is quite the tongue twister. I'm going to get it wrong many times. Probably just refer to it as the PFS. Either way, the PFS is a lesser known tool in Unreal Engine, and that is because by default, it is turned off in the engine. So we're going to go and turn it on as our first step. So we're going to go up to Edit, Editor Preferences. On the left, we'll go down to Experimental, and then under Foliage, we're going to checkbox Enable Procedural Foliage. Cool, we can close out of that. And now under our volumes, you'll see that we now get the Procedural Foliage volume and the Procedural Foliage blocking volume, which we'll go over later. For now, in our demo scene, we're going to go and grab a Procedural Foliage volume. And under our details panel, we can go and size that up. I'm going to oversize it just to show some other settings and how to fix those problems. There we go. Cool. So the way that this works is 3 stages. 1, you've got your box where you want the stuff to go. 2, you need to give it a list of where stuff needs to go, and that'll be the PFS list. And 3, each foliage's individual how do I work type settings. So for 1, we've got the box. Now 2, we need to make the list. You'll see here under the foliage, procedural foliage system, on our box, we can make one over here. But for now, we'll just go through the content browser way of doing it. First, we need a folder to put the stuff. So we're going to go make a folder. I like to call it PFS. And then in here, we can go, you're not going to be able to see this just of how I've got the recording, but if you right click, you can go to foliage, and then you're going to make a procedural foliage spawner. So there we go. We're going to give it a name. I like to call it PFS, and then sort of the biome, so island. There we go. So then now we need to give this one some actors to spawn. So we can go inside that just for now. And I can show you what that looks like. We've got seed, tile sizes. Generally, you don't play with any of these settings, maybe just seed. But you'll see here, you've got foliage types, and you can expand that. And it's just a list. It's just a list of what actors do I place. And the way that it works is a top-down system. So we'll place the first one first. And let's say you put grass there. And you set grass at 100% density. It covers all of the land. It comes to the next one on the list. There's no more place to put anything. It just won't spawn anything, right? So you generally want to try and work from how you want the real world to sort of grow. So like trees, then bushes, then grass. It's just a good sort of way of putting that up. But you can mix and match as you go along. So let's go back to our content browser and let's make a foliage. This will be under, again, right click, foliage, and you've got 2 types of foliage. You've got active foliage, which is a blueprint. So if you want to do some fancy foliage things like chopping down trees, or you can even use the system just to place buildings and stuff like that. Really, there's no limit. But the other thing that we're going to do, the other one is going to be the static mesh foliage. We're going to create one of those. And so here we go, new instance, static mesh foliage. So static mesh foliage as our prefix. And I'm going to call this one tree 01. Cool. We can go into that and you'll see that we've got our new tree system. So first things first, you can give it a mesh. So I'm going to go and grab a tree mesh. There we go. Just save. Now, by default, it's pretty much got a very high density. Okay, we're going just for heads up, depending on your version of Unreal, the first thing you might see here is painting. That is physically when you paint using this using this foliage actor, right? In later versions of Unreal, like the latest version of 5.4, you can just throw static meshes straight into the foliage. It doesn't make a foliage actor anymore. Older ones, it'll make a foliage actor. You'll see the exact same settings. But either way, for now, we can just minimize painting. Just ignore that. That is for if you are actually physically painting. So if you want to do that, you can tweak those settings. So if we go back to our PFS island, we can now see that we can select the tree. We can save all. Cool. And if we selected our box and we put our list in our box, we can now resimulate. Before we do that, some caveats. you'll see that there are 3 check marks underneath here. And that is allow landscape, allow BSP, which is the boxes that you can make inside Unreal Engine here on the left. These geometry boxes. And finally static mesh, which is your bridges and all of that, right? So we're going to disable everything except for landscape. And yeah, for a good reason. We don't want trees spawning on our bridge. Or if you had buildings, the trees would spawn on top of your buildings. Never really a good thing. And I'm not going to adjust anything. And I'm just going to hit spawn. And we'll see that by default, it's got 100% coverage, right? So you can come in here and kill your FPS. You know what? Out. Control Z. Get rid of those trees. So let's go and turn those down, shall we? So if we come down here to clustering, this is where we're going to generally work with that. We'll turn these off and I'll go through those just now. So here is our initial seed density. So in a 10 meter by 10 meter area at 1, that is 100%, right? So if we turn that down to 0,1, that is 10%, right? So now you'll see that we're going to actually have more than a 10% coverage, and I'll tell you why now. Okay, so if this was actually 10%, you'd see one tree spaced evenly every now and again, but you're not. You're seeing these clusters happen. And that is because the procedural foliage system uses a tiered clustering system. So if we go back, we can see that here we can see number of steps, initial seed density, spread distance, spread variation, seeds per step, all of these, right, underneath the clustering system. So what it essentially did was, it took the first couple of points at 10%, so it like did a division of the land and sort of placed those in quarters, right? So let's just skip that sort of knowledge for now. All you need to know is it distributed 4 initial points at 10%. And now it knows that it wants to step down 3 times, because we saw that in our settings 3 times, right? And that'll spawn 3 seeds per step. So if we went to go and count, we'd probably see about 10 trees. So I don't know if we're going to be able to see that very accurately. Trust me, it's about, it's 3, 9, and the initial one 10. Right? That might not be exactly accurate. I don't know if it maybe minuses 1 if it can't put it there, but that'll be the sort of standard, right? So for now, I'm going to just Control Z again, and let's go and play with some of these settings, right? So average spread distance, this is a large tree. Let's put that up to 300. And so what now, variance will be 300, and then it'll go either way in this 150, right? So it'll go out and then maybe up to 150 extra, or even back a little bit. So 150, let's also put that at 300, right? And we can probably play with this a little bit more, but for now, if we resim, nowhere near enough. Let's go up to 1,000 and 1,200. Let's get some real big variation going on. There we go. Still not enough. Let's keep going. 2,000, 2,000. Resim. There we go. So now we're starting to get a little bit more of a variance. Control Z. Let's go. Let's actually drop this down by 2 to 4,000. I'm going to keep the 2,000. I'm going to set this to 0,08 just to get a little bit less, seeing as we're on such a small island. And there we go. We're starting to see a nicer spread now. So you're going to start noticing some things. Mostly that they're in the water. So we can go and play with some of those settings. Let's see. That is under... Here we go. We can do random pitch angle, ground slope, and height, right? So by default, it's at maximums. So if you want to find where your water line is, you can either select your water and you can get its exact Z location. Another trick that I like to do is I like to just go and grab a basic cube and bring it up a little bit and then getting that Z vector, right? So I copy that Z value. So I can delete my little cube and I can go and place that in my minimum. So Now, here's something interesting. If I go and just say, hey, resim, there we go. It's going to fix those issues. Let's say nothing changes, right? We haven't tweaked any values and we hit resim again. You're going to see that they're in the exact same location. And that is back to that seed, random seed that I said at the beginning, right? So this is, all things similar, it should give you the exact same result. So only if the landscape changes somehow or some way will this ever change, right? So you can play with the seed variation for that reason, just to get a few different, options. We can also just go back and maybe increase our density back to like, not 1, 0, 1. Get a few more trees here. No? 0, 3. Too much. 0, 0,15. There we go. Yeah, that's a nice distribution. Cool. So again, if I click on this, resim, nothing's changed. If I, per se, went into landscape and I shifted this area and I resimmed, it's not enough of a change. So, if I'd need to put like this on an angle, let's go and do that. So let's say ramp, put you down, add ramp. Right, that's enough of a ramp that maybe that should cause a little bit of a issue. Resim, no, because we haven't got any ramp settings changed. So let's go and look. So let's go through these settings, right? So your Z offset, if your things are spawning in the air, you can shift them up or down. So if they're too low or too high, you can shift them with the Z offset. Align to normal, that is, if your landscape is at an angle, will your tree be at an angle or straight up? Right, that's bad. So if your tree's here, will your tree be standing straight up or will it align to the normal that it's touching? Trees don't do that. Trees go straight up. So for trees, we're going to turn off align to normal. So we'll see here this tree that is tilted. If we resim, straight up, that's how trees are supposed to be. But you can see that you have your roots sticking out now. So in this case, this is where your Z offset would be helpful. You could lower that down. Cool, let's continue. So we're not going to average. So that is sort of like, if you've got very choppy terrain, it'll like sort of take a general average of that area. Random yaw, that is rotation, right? That is very good for foliage. We always want that. Random pitch angle is a little bit of lean, if you want a little bit. Ground slope angle, that is the maximum that you want it to be able to place on. So right now it's unlimited. So let's go and give ourselves quite a nice little ramp over here. Add ramp. I'm just going to go and make this look a little bit nicer. So there and there. Actually, you know what? I want to make this a little bit even steeper. There we go. Actually, this is perfect little area for this sort of test. So go and do that. So 45 is quite steep. I mean, you could go even steeper. So for rocks or something like that, or, whatever you want to do, you could have that set. So right now we've got it set. So no matter what we do, so if we go and resim, the tree's just going to shift. It's not going to really do anything. But if we set this to a more tame value, like 20, because generally trees don't grow on steep cliff faces, and we hit resim, that tree's going to disappear. But this one will stay because it's not on quite a steep angle. We can go down to 10, and we'll see that this guy now also disappears. I mean, even some of the more tamer ones disappear, going down to 10. So 15, resim, you'll see that those ones generally come back. So yeah, so nothing spawning on the hill. So next we've got, again, our height value. So if you don't want them spawning beyond a certain height because you've got snow-capped mountains or something, you can go and set those not to spawn up there. Advanced. This is a very useful tool. So inclusion landscape layers. If we go and look at our landscape settings, where landscape, there we go. If we go into paint, you've got your layers here: auto, grass, grass dry, dirt, and stone. You could say paint stone over here. Let's make sure we're using 100 tool strength. Let's make this brush size a bit smaller, and let's paint stone underneath this tree here specifically. If we resum, and nothing happens, right? Because it's allowed to paint on any layer. If we go into our exclusion layers, so inclusion would be if you only want it on this layer, exclusion is if you don't want it on this layer, and we go and write the exact correct name. So again, if we just check here, we can see that it's named stone. If we get the spelling correct and we say save, and now we resum, it'll delete it. It can't spawn on stone, right? So for this, we could say in opposition, only spawn on auto and only spawn on grass. For now, actually, let's try getting rid of auto. Let's just see if this will let. I haven't painted this layer, so let's see what happens if we resum. Yeah, there's only a few areas that have been painted with grass manually. So this is where one of those situations where auto is great for speediness, but it wouldn't save us in all situations. Actually, I think that's not the problem. So here we've got the minimum inclusion landscape weight, and this is the transition. If you paint in like 100% values, 100% is like pure that, and 0 is nothing. Where it graduates at a certain point, it'll switch over and it'll be allowed to paint. So you can lower that amount down. So let's just see if we get rid of this auto. We do it like 0.3 and we resum. Nah, still nothing. Let's try an even lower value. Resum, nah. So it needs to be, I think it's auto. Let's just go and check. Auto landscape. Auto landscape, spelled correctly. And so now, if we resum, it'll be allowed to spawn again. Cool. So we could do a bunch of things like that, but for now, I'm just going to go and turn these off. And it is easier for me to say, hey, you know, stone, bad. So let's go and resum. There we go. We get all of that back. Cool. So that's that setting. Density fall off. You can use this just to create more curvature in your density from the center of this. So I've never really had much success with this. It can be a little bit finicky. It is something just to play around with if you want to try and get an even more realistic forest. Collision. This is its physical collision radius. So let's see. How can we? It would be best if we did grass. So let's add a grass. So we're going to go and create a new foliage, static foliage, grass 01. And we're going to set this one to grass clump, save. And we're going to set this one just to 100% because we want it just to cover, save. And now if we resum, we should see grass. Cool. So let's go and play with a few of these settings. I want less spread, high density. It is on next on the list. So resum. I want even less spread. I want more clumping. Let's go and turn this collision down, way down. And you'll see that that'll just help. There we go. Cool. Let's turn that up to like 20. Spread distance. Cool. So I played with the settings a little bit just to get the scene looking nice. Fix the grass's material as well. Cool. So continuing on where we left off, we've got a nice distribution just to show you some of the settings that I did change. Just close all of these. Cool. I just set the density of the grass to 0,2 and just gave it more steps out just to get sort of a fade with 600 between them. And that was pretty much it. Trees I just pumped up to 1.8 and gave them 3 each. Cool. So continuing on, we can start seeing, some of the same problems plagued. Oh, and also I just set the grass to spawn at a certain height using the same setting as the tree. But we're getting grass on our paths. We're getting grass in areas that we don't want, such as maybe even the shadows. So we can go and try and turn some of these settings on and off. So first of all, we want exclusion layer. So we don't want stone. Let's go and take a look at some of our other layer names. Cobblestone. So let's go and use cobblestone and sand as some more exclusion layers. So cobblestone and sand. So save and resim. And look, our path is clear. And again, this has been done in like a split second, right? No manually going and unpainting. If someone goes and does, a new pathway, resim, done. No fiddling at all. Let's go and take some of the edges down, right? We don't want this. Grass needs to be at like 10 degrees. Save. So none of these weird cliff faces. Resim. There we go. That'll just be nice. Plain. Back grass back at the top. And yeah, that's looking good. So let's see. What about like something like shadows, right? We can go down in our grass to can grow in shade. That is already checked off. So it should be, yeah, see, it's sort of not growing here in the denser shade. It's a little bit finicky. It doesn't work the greatest, but you'll see that you do get a bit of a better look. So actually what we can do is we can turn it on and let's see what that does. So let's get SM tree shade radius to be 1,000. Save and resim. See, it's so annoying, man. Tree can grow in shade. Save so it doesn't kill itself. Resim. There we go. Grass is growing in the shade. We go to grass. We turn that off. Save. Resim. And now we should be getting a little bit better of a result. Maybe it's a bit too big. 500. Resim. There we go. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. Cool. Trees are probably a little bit too dense now, seeing as they're not killing themselves. Again, a lot of just playing around as you tweak these settings until you get like just a happy sort of medium. Maybe back up to 3. That just made you larger. 0,18. You can also play with the, there we go. Yeah, I like that. I don't particularly like you sitting there on the end. Why are you spawning there? What is your max angle? Let's turn you down to like 12 as well. There we go. Cool. Much better. So yeah. They can encroach into the shade. They won't specifically grow in the shade. Yeah, and let's turn off this layer. What layer are you? You are dirt. Grass. Do not allow it to spawn into dirt. Save all. And grab our box and resim. There we go. Yes. Cool. Now, one of the other things that you can do very easily is you can duplicate these. So I can go here, I can duplicate, I can say that this one is, say, flowers. All right, I can go now and grab a nice flower mesh, something with some visibility. I can go and add that to my list. and resim. Cool. A little bit too dense. So let's go. Now we know that it can't spawn on any of those inclusion layers. We know what angle it is. We just need to spawn it at a less frequency. So 0,5, 3, 3. Probably give it a little bit less distribution. We want these sort of to be clumpy. So we can resim. Ah, yeah. So probably even lower in terms of its spawning. 0,1. Resim. Too low. No, 0,1 should be fine. Oh, we really got none of them? Hmm. So if tree is 0,18, 0,2, 0,1, 2020, that should be good. Yeah, let's turn that down. It's not spawning any, and the trees are just disappearing. Let's just increase that. There we go. There we go. That's looking perfect. Probably maybe even bring the tree's maximum height up a little bit more, just so, because when it goes across the edge there like that. I mean, in fact, just sort of even taking this down to a lower, no, not you, the trees, taking that down to a lower curve. There we go. Cool. And we can just keep going. So let's add some rocks. Cool. Back from a lunch break, and let's continue. So let's add some rocks. So we can either duplicate or we can go and make a new one. I'm going to make a new one. Static mesh, foliage, rocks 01. So let's go and grab a rock. Grab just a round rock. Let's just drag that in. Oh god. Okay. So we'll go and add that to our list. Let's just see what happens with resim. Probably not the wanted value. I'm going to say that I don't want that much. Yeah, and then we can just go and slowly increase this so we get a value that we like. I don't actually know what's... Oh, we do. It was actually relatively large. It seems to be like trying to spawn it, but then it doesn't. Don't want it to be aligned to normal. I'm just going to go just here and get rid of these blanks. I'm a little bit confused why... It seems to be trying to spawn them and just doesn't spawn them. I wonder if this is just a bug with this version of Unreal Engine. Again, depending on your version, There we go. Got Ronrocks spawning. But yeah, so this is where we can maybe use our Z offset. So we could do minus 100 and get it to sync. There we go. It's also maybe 0.2 is already a very high number. Um, not allowed to grow in shade. Drop that way down. Also, sometimes it's just really helpful if you drop your tree and shadow stuff sort of down a little bit. It tends to help a little bit with the spawning. There we go. So I'd say maybe needs a little bit higher tree because you can see that it's colliding with itself now. That's a bit better. Yee. So I'll increase the grass's max angle to like 12. Again, it's a lot of playing around. Also, probably just go and smooth some of these areas out where I've done some demos. There we go. Cool. I want to put the trees a little bit higher, so I'm just going to go and grab a new Z like that and go and throw that into the trees. Resum. There we go. That's looking perfect. So we could now say, we've got either our path or like our little dirt area here. So I'm just going to go and neaten this up a little bit. Grass, brush size, make sure I'm using the paint. Actually, no, auto. There we go. Yeah, something like that. Right, so let's just take this down a little bit. And let's say, how are we going to do this? I want to make some sort of interesting thing happen over here. And let's take out auto. Cool. So we've got like these two areas now where we've got like some rock happening. And let's go and create what other options do we have for foliage? Why don't let's try making some mushrooms and want something rocky but interesting. We've got small stone 07. We've got rock foundation. So maybe let's go and make a new foliage system. So SMF, rocks 02. Let's go and get our like taller ones. Okay, so I'm going to set this to 1 and 1, actually 0 for that. I'm going to set this at 1 because this inclusion layer should only be on cobblestone. Actually, not cobblestone, stone. So this layer is only allowed to spawn on stone if it is over a certain amount, 0.7. Let's go and add that to our list. And let's see what happens when we re-simulate this. Resum. There we go. We get some of these guys spawning. So if we wanted to create like a sort of area where, let's do that. Let's do 150 there. That's, let's do that. And resum. Ah, that gets rid of our trees for some reason. Why does that get rid of trees? Yeah. Right, so there's sort of like an example of like specifically spawning things in certain areas. Like you could create certain things to only spawn in the dirt area. That's make a new foliage. Mushrooms. Right, and let's go and get a mushroom mesh. Red cap. Let's say you are only allowed to spawn on grass. Not grass plus grass over a certain amount, and we want you to can grow in shade, yes. Spawns in shade, yes. I wish we could turn, sort of the only spawns in shadows type thing on. That is good. Probably lower this down. Put this to like 1 because it is only a very small object. Okay. Grab our thing and resum. Did I add it to my list? No, I didn't. Because there wasn't mushroom. Okay. Still not affecting us. 0.2. Resum. No. I'm going to put that on 1 just to make sure that something is happening. Ah, there we go. Okay, so it is. You know what? It's because this also needs to be on auto landscape. Ah, not the rocks. There we go. Cool. So then we can just go and lower that down. Oh, we can start getting some mushrooms growing. I mean, it's growing way too many. I'm going to put the spread variance up. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. There we go. That's getting a nice little distribution. Again, I do wish that you could like force it to only spawn in shadows, but I can't remember if that's actually a thing. We've allowed it to grow in shade, which is good. What else can we do? Okay, yeah, there's some other settings that we should go over. So I'm going to grab my player start, which is over here. I'm going to go throw this on the island. And I'm going to show you some other sections that need some tweaking. So for 1, scale, and 2 is collision. So you need to be able to enable collision inside the settings on each of these foliage actors, which is down here in collision. So we can set collision preset to be block all. So there's one setting, right? So, if you want to be able to tweak that, you can. You can do a bunch of settings with shadows for performance. We can even set a cull distance, so we can turn them on and off at certain distances. And a bunch of other sort of more density and performance settings that I'm not going to go over in this tutorial. Cool. So now, first things first, we can go and check that out. It'll be using the collision box set by the static actor. We're just turning that on and off. So there we go. So now you can see that we can go into it. Now the second thing is that our grass is very large, probably all of the things just in the scene in general. But let's go and turn the grass's scaling up and down. So you can see here we've got procedural scale from min to 1 to max 3. And that is the initial one will spawn, the very first seedling, and they'll get the max age and max scale. And then as it distributes them out in our clustering settings, they'll get smaller in scale, essentially getting younger, like the real world. So what we can do is we can say, hey, I want you to go from like 0,5 to a maximum of 2. All right, so if we go and look at our grass and we grab our thing, we hit resum, we should see that all of our grass gets scaled way smaller. Right, so if we go and take a look at that, that's looking a lot better. Cool. Now, once you've sort of got that setting, you can make another variable or another system, depending on sort of, again, your biomes. But we could also just as easily go and stretch this out, resum, and there we go. All of those settings will be applied to the larger area. So we'll see our clumping of grass and all of that. So, you know, for a larger area like this, I might just go and make a duplicate of our island and instead say mountain, right? And I can keep things like the trees and stuff like that, but what I'll maybe do is a grass duplicate and call this one grasso1 dense, right? Just because on an island you've got a little bit, you know, smaller area to work with, but say on a larger area like this, we want a more denser population. So here I'm going to go and put this up to like 0,5. I'm going to open my mountain and switch this out for the dense grass and resim. And there we go. We start getting a lot more grass coverage. Oh, I didn't actually resim because I didn't switch that to mountain. There we go. So some other things that are going to need to be set are the probably the height, because down here it's probably not allowed to spawn. Be pretty interesting. I'm guessing this water doesn't go out very far, and that's how they, yeah. So they're able to dip down here below the level that we've set for grass. So let's go and play around with that. So we'll put that to a high number. We'll resum. One of the other things I like to do is I like to take my boxes and I like to make them pretty tall. Just helps find them. Resum. Cool. And now if we go down here, yep, we're getting our grass. So I mean the same thing for the trees and all of that. That'll all be happening. So rather than that, what we can do is we can turn off whatever layer this is on all of them. I'm guessing it's sand. Yeah, probably sand. So I will go and grab this amount. Just make this negative. Cool. I'm going to fix that on... I won't fix it on that grass because that's fine for now. I'll fix it on flowers, rocks, mushrooms, and all of that. And then we will go and say that it is not allowed to be put on sand. And that'll fix our issue. So sand's already there. Sand's already there. Rocks. Exclusion from sand. Rocks 2. Exclusion from sand. Mushrooms. I don't need to do an exclusion because it's only allowed on grass. It's already done. Cool. Save all of that. I'll resim and pause for you guys. And there we go. Much better. So as we come in, you can see we're starting to get a distribution of rocks, mushrooms. They're allowed to grow in shadows. Grass layer. All of the paths are open. I mean, we could probably do the same for the trees. Right, so it's all about just finding a nice balance between everything, getting a nice density. Don't put anything at one. If you've got 10 items, try and distribute 100% between them all. So grass, 0,4, trees 0,2, and just working up that 100% variable across that distribution. Um, you can have multiple rocks. I've only just done one of each in this example, but you could have 3 rock variations all sharing between the same. Like, if you want to make rock 0,3, you do 0,1 for each of the 3 variances, and then you can get that spawn. Um, Try to not, like, if you can go over that 100%, right? But you've always got to realize that you only have 100%. So something is getting kicked out in that distribution there. So if we go into G mode, you can start seeing that, right? And again, you could then take this box, and there's nothing stopping you from just putting this box over the entire landscape and using it as one simple procedural foliage volume and getting your entire landscape done. You just keep playing with the settings, looking over your entire landscape until you're happy with the distribution. You can see where there's like a little lump in the landscape. But yeah, like you start seeing some really good distribution. It's all about just playing with the variables and finding a happy medium ground. And also just trying to, like not, pumping your landscape full of grass. It is nice to have some of your floor texture showing through. It is not a sin for that to happen. Don't try and fill your entire landscape with grass because that is just a killer for performance. Again, you can also have, static mesh rocks placed in specific locations if you want. You don't need to make them foliage actors. And so, yeah, that's it. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed. It's nothing too technical. It's just about, finding your distribution, finding the correct settings, thinking about it realistically in terms of like how do these things spawn in real life? What are the settings that you can use to achieve that? And just playing around with it, right? Like sort of some of these settings as well as the scale of these trees, getting them to be pushed a little bit further away. I mean, this is actually kind of fun. Just having all of this, having this sort of distribution where again you can see like the central one will be the largest, and then they'll sort of scale out and down as they go out. But you can you sort of see how that sort of like the central point somewhere around here, and then as it goes and spawns 3 generations, and then that spread is that spread variable that we're setting, just like how far they're allowed to go out. And if this was a say actually we can do that, hang on, okay, let's do one little extra thing here, right? We're gonna create a collectible, or like let's say a harvesting game, right? You can make a blueprint class, and let's just make an actor, and let's call this one BP underscore herb. And let's go and get a static mesh and call this one herb. And let's go and get a static mesh for our herb. Do we have like a very standout something or other that's like, yeah, this one will be easy enough to sort of find and see, right? And you can imagine this is a berry bush. All right, let's go and add a sphere collision. Scale that up. Get that sort of central. And we can go to our event graph. We can go sphere on begin overlap. If the other actor is player character. If other actor is equal to player character, branch. And then for now, we'll just destroy itself, right? So we'll act like this is being picked up and put in someone's pocket. But there we have a blueprint. And we can test whether this works by just dragging it in like this. We can hit play. And we can go and walk over to our collectible and boom. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. I mean, it doesn't really matter to the functionality. Yeah, it feels right? Like a bush should be this small. Cool, so there's our blueprint. So let's go and distribute that like a foliage. So we can go to our foliage and we can make an active foliage. So active foliage, herb 01. And you can see that we can now select our herb. And instead of making a static mesh, we've selected an actor class and we get a bunch of the same settings. There's a few differences in terms of, I mean, I think that's just for painting, but you know, there's like not as many settings here, but we can do the same clustering and all of that. I'm going to set this to 0,1. I'm going to say that I don't want it to be something like anything. And we're going to go to our mountain and we're going to add our herb. There we go. And let's see what happens when we generate this. Resim. I should have probably done it on the small area just for quicker. Okay, I'm going to pause. Cool, and we can very easily see where they've been distributed. And we can see that we've got a couple on the mountain there. We've got one in the trees over there. So yeah, very easily just like created a little blueprint. And the nice thing about this is you could very easily in that blueprint then get it to switch what kind of herb it is and stuff like that. So you don't need to do any you don't need to create like multiple versions of the herb actor. You can just get it so that it is just randomly distributing and then changing what herb itself is. So you could also get it to change colors, you know, all of that like a normal like blueprinter could do. So let's go and grab our player start. And let's just go and drop it off closer to our final destination. Let's make it, you know, stage it. So we spawn in, we're looking around. Oh, there's one of those herbs. We'd go up to it and we collect it and bam, like that. We've distributed our collectibles across the island very easily. You could, you know, put a whole animation about like harvesting it or something like that. But there you go. You don't need to go and manually place your herbs all over the country. You can use a bunch of settings. You could have it so that your collectible mushrooms only spawn down in the depths of somewhere. You could have your rock collectibles only spawn in rocky areas. There's so much that you can do with this tool. It is fantastic. So, save it all. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this tutorial. I hope that you have enjoyed. It has been a great little quick video. It only took me 10 attempts to get the intro done, so improving. And yeah, that's been it. Thanks for watching.